A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on data structures and algorithms course. In our previous session, we started the fifth unit, and in that we started the graphs concept. So we said a graph is a non-linear data structure, and it is basically a collection of vertices and edges. So the edges, they are used to connect the vertices, different vertices, whatever you have inside your graph. To connect all those vertices, we are using edges. And if you see the data structures what we discussed in your fourth unit, we discussed your binary trees, binary search trees, AVL trees. Okay, so all your AVL trees, they are binary search trees. Remember this is very important thing. So that to understand, I'm taking the help of my whiteboard application. So all my AVL trees, they are binary search trees. Okay, they are binary search trees. So we can say the binary search trees, all my binary search trees are all my AVL trees, they are binary search trees. Binary search trees. And all my binary search trees, they are binary trees. All my binary search trees, they are binary trees. And all my binary trees, they are trees. All my binary trees, they are trees. They are trees, normal trees. And all my trees, they are what? They are connected graphs. All my trees, they are connected graphs. So this thing you have to understand, and this thing you have to remember. This thing you have to remember. And all my trees, they are connected graphs. Connected graphs. And all my connected graphs, they are graphs only. Isn't it? All my connected graphs, they are graphs. Try to understand this thing. All my connected graphs, they are graphs. So this differentiation, understanding of this differentiation, it is very important. Okay. And all my connected graphs, they are graphs itself. So in reverse, if you take, not all graphs are connected graphs, and not all connected graphs are trees, and not all trees are binary trees, and not all binary trees are binary search trees, and not all binary search trees are AVL trees. But in reverse, if you take, all your AVL trees are binary search trees, and all your binary search trees are binary trees, and all your binary trees are trees, and all trees are connected graphs, and all connected graphs are graphs. Like this we can do the differentiation. So that means what? See, all these data structures, whatever we see, AVL trees, binary search trees, binary trees, trees, connected graphs, all they are indirectly graphs only. Indirectly graphs only. This understanding we had, because all these are having vertices and connected edges. All these are having vertices and connected edges. So by default, all these things are graphs only. The reverse definition, it will not apply, because we said not all AVL trees are binary, not all binary search trees are AVL trees. So likewise, not all graphs are connected graphs, not all connected graphs are trees, and not all trees are binary trees, but in reverse it will apply. So all these data in reverse, when you are applying, like all AVL trees are binary search trees, all binary search trees are binary trees, like that when you are applying, so all these data structures will become your graph. So in reverse the condition is positive. I mean you're getting the positive result, or in reverse you have whatever you are expecting, but in this forward direction when you are going, it is not correct. In this forward direction when you are going, it is not correct. So that means not all graphs are connected graphs, and not all connected graphs are trees. Not all trees are binary trees. Likewise, it will go in a negative opinion. You will get a negative opinion if you move in this direction. But when you move in this direction, you will get a positive opinion. Every time you will get a positive opinion. That is, all AVL trees are binary search trees. All binary search trees are binary trees likewise. So this definition you have to understand and you have to remember. Hopefully you understood. So quickly we go to our slides and we see all these things like introduction to your graphs. We had the definitions and the how we show a graph in mathematical notations. We said G is equals to V comma E. In parenthesis we are specifying where V indicates, or V is nothing but set of all vertices and E is nothing but set of all edges. Okay, and how we are denoting a particular edge in our graph data structure is simply between the pair of parentheses you have to put the vertices. Okay, from where you are starting and from where it is ending, put that vertices, and in between you have to put a comma separator. So like this. Okay, so like this we are denoting edge AB. Okay, here this is nothing but your edge AB, edge AB, edge AC. Likewise, we are denoting all my edges over here, BD, CD, BE, ED. Likewise, I am denoting all my edges in the graph. Okay, all vertices, simply put the vertices and use the comma separator and form them like a set to frame your vertex set. But over here it is edge set. So like this we are framing. So a combination of these two, like set of vertices and set of edges, when you make a combination like a parenthesis, then when you're enclosing these two within a parenthesis, then this will become the graph notation. This will become the graph notation like this. Okay, G is equals to V comma E, where V is the set of all vertices and E is the set of all edges. So like this you have to remember. So these terminologies we discussed, all these terminologies. Then the graph representation, we said we can represent in three different ways: using adjacency matrix, using incidence matrix, and using adjacency list. In that adjacency matrix, we are calculating this adjacency matrix between the set of between the edges and edges. Okay, suppose if you have three edges, or let us say if you have four edges in your graph, then in between vertices. Okay, set of vertices and vertices. Okay, vertices cross vertices like this, vertices cross vertices. So this type of matrix we are forming. And whenever there is a link between these two vertices, we are denoting it with a 1, and whenever there is no link between these two vertices, we are denoting 0. If it is undirectional graph, okay, if it is not having any directions. But if it is a directed graph, then what we are saying, 1 for outgoing direction, 0 for no link, and -1 for incoming direction. Like this we are denoting. Okay, these things we discussed in our previous session. So that's why I'm not taking more time over here. So quickly we go and see how we can frame, how we can draw the adjacency matrix from a graph, and how we can draw the incidence matrix from a graph, and how we can represent the graph with the help of an adjacency list as well. So quickly we'll go to the first one, adjacency matrix. As I said, we are using vertices by vertices matrix in order to show the adjacency matrix, in order to show the representation using adjacency matrix. So suppose if you have 4 vertices inside your graph, then what matrix we need in order to, what size of matrix we need in order to represent our graph, in the sense 4 cross 4, vertices cross vertices, that is nothing but 4 cross 4. In this matrix, what we are doing, both rows and columns, we are simply denoting, we are simply representing with the help of vertices only. Okay, this matrix is filled with either 0 or 1. Okay, 0 in case of there is no link. If there is no link from a vertex to vertex, then we represent 0 over there. And if there is a link from a vertex to vertex, we represent 1 over there. So simply you can see as it is an undirected graph. It is an undirected graph. We are not having any directions for the edges, as you can see over here. All all edges are without any directions. So how many vertices I have over here? 5 vertices I have. So 5 cross 5 matrix I have taken. In rows as well as in columns, we are representing only the vertices. So as A to A, we don't have any link. A to A, we don't have any link, so 0. A to B, there is a link, so 1. A to C, there is a link, so 1. A to D, there is a link. A to E, there is no direct link. We always look for direct link. If A to A, there is no direct link, so we kept 0 only. So 1 indicates direct link, 0 indicates no link. Remember this one. 1 indicates direct link and 0 indicates no link. No link. This you have to remember. So whenever there is a direct link between the two vertices, simply put 1 over there. And whenever there is no direct link or there is no link at all, simply what we have to put? 0 we have to put over there. So in that way, I have represented all my vertices and edges, links, with the help of this matrix. You can quickly calculate. So we do for this C. We do for this C. From C to C, from C to A, we have a link, this particular link, C to A. So it will be 1. Here I have represented that one. So then C to B, there is no direct link, so it should be 0, here 0. And then C to D, there is a direct link, isn't it? So first we have to see C to C. C to C, there is no link, so it will be 0. C to C, there is no link, so it is 0. Then C to D, there is a link like this, so it will be 1. Here we kept that one. Then C to E, there is no direct link. C here, E here, there is no direct link, so we put 0 over here. Okay, so like this. Do the same thing for D as well. For D, now I am doing for D. So from D to A, there is a link, this particular link, D to A, so we put 1. Then D to B, this particular link, okay, we put another one. D to C, this link, so we kept 1 over here. D to D, there is a link. D to D, this self loop you can see over here. D to D, there is a self loop, so this particular link, so we kept 1 over there also. Then finally D to E also we have one link, this one, so we kept 1 over here. So like this, all the links you can represent in either 0 or 1 within the matrix, and vertices we are taking in both rows as well as in column. If there is a link between the vertex to vertex, we put 1, and if there is no link, we put 0. So the case will be somewhat different for a directed graph. So if there is a, here also we are taking vertices in rows, vertices in columns. If there is a direct link, we can either put -1 or we put 1. -1 in case of our incoming. In case of incoming link, we put -1, and 1 in case of outgoing link. Outgoing. What is incoming link? What is outgoing link? We have seen in terminology. And 0 if there is no link at all. If there is no link at all, we kept 0 over there. We put 0 over there. So now quickly try to understand. So first we do for this A. We do this for A. So A to B, we have a direct outgoing link. So what we have to put? We have to put 1 over here. Okay. So first we see A to A. A to A, there is no link, so it will be 0. It will be 0. Then A to B, it is an outgoing link, so we have to put 1. So that I did over here. A to C also, there is an outgoing link, this one. A to C, there is an outgoing link. See, we have to put 1 over there also, like this. Then A to D, there is no link. Yeah, there is a link. A to D, there is a link, isn't it? There is an incoming link. So this should be -1. Here it is a mistake, it seems. A to D, we have a link, and it is an, yeah, see. Okay, here -1s we are not indicating. I think there is some mistake in this one. Acha, even if there is a link, so my consideration was wrong. So -1, there is no incoming links we are not considering at all. Incoming links we will not consider at all. So simply remove this one. Incoming links we will not consider at all. Only outgoing links we will consider. Outgoing links and no links we will consider. If there is an incoming link, for that also we put 0 only. 0 for incoming link as well. Incoming link. Okay. So first we do with A now. From A to A there is no link, so it will be 0. From A to B there is a direct link, direct outgoing link, so we put 1. A to C again there is a direct outgoing link, so we put 1 here also. A to D there is an incoming link, so it should be 0. We will not consider this link. We'll consider it as 0 only because it is an incoming. Then A to E there is no direct link, so it should be 0. So here 0, here 0. Then we have B. Okay. For B vertex, consider B to A, no direct. No direct, and we have an incoming link. Okay. So we put 0. Okay. From A to B to B there is no link, so again it will be 0. B to C there is no direct link, so it will be 0. B to E, B to D there is a direct link, so we kept 1 over here. B to E direct link, 1 over here. Then C, we'll do this for C. Okay, C is over here. From C to A incoming, so 0. C to B no link, 0. C to C no link, 0. C to E indirect link. C to D we have done 1, and C to E indirect link 0. Okay, then do this for D. D over here. From D to A direct link 1. D to B incoming link 0. D to C incoming link 0. D to D direct link, direct outgoing link, so 1. D to E direct outgoing link, so 1. Okay, then for E, E to A there is no direct link, 0. E to B no direct link, 0. E to C no direct link, no direct link. E to E no direct link. So all these things will become 0 for E. So in this way we can use the adjacency matrix to represent the graph. Okay. So the next thing, incidence matrix. Here we are doing in between vertices and edges, and here we have the concept of negative value, -1. Okay. If it is a direct link, consider the following directed graph. Over here they have given the directed graph. So here what we have done, all the edges we have named. Okay, not only the vertices, all the edges we have named. So edges we are taking in rows, and vertices we are taking in rows, and edges we are taking in columns. As you can see, these things, all these things are vertices, and all these things are edges. Edges we have taken in columns, vertices we have taken in rows. So if the whatever edge and whatever vertex we are selecting, if there is a direct link, if there is a direct outgoing link, okay, that edge, whatever edge we have considered, if that edge is the direct outgoing link, then we put 1 over there. Okay, then we put 1 over there. Okay, so for A, E1 is the direct outgoing link. As you can see over here, for this A, E1 is the direct outgoing link, so we kept 1 over here. And E2, for this A, E2 also a direct outgoing link, so we kept 1 here also. Okay, then for A, E3, it is an incoming link, direct incoming link. It is not outgoing, it is incoming. So if it is an incoming, in this case use -1. Outgoing, 1. If there is no connection, use 0. Okay, E3, it is an incoming link, so we kept -1 over here. And all other, because A is connected to only E2, E3 and E4, and all others, they are not connected to this A, so simply we kept zeros. E4 0, E5 0, E6 0, E7, E8, all are zeros because they are not having any direct connectivity over here. Then go to B. Okay, then go to B and do the same thing. For B, edge E1, it is an incoming link, so we have to use -1. Okay, for B, edge E2 no link, so 0. Edge E3 no link, so 0. edge E4, it is an outgoing link. Edge E4, it is an outgoing link for B. Okay, so we have to put 1 over there. Then edge E5, no direct link, 0. Edge E6, it is an outgoing link. For B, edge E6 is a outgoing link. So we have to put 1 over here. Then E7, E8, no connectivity. So zeros, no connection, so zeros. Then check the C. For C, E1, 0, E2, -1, E3, 0, E4, 0, E5, 1, E6, 0, E7, 0. Like that you can check over here. Whatever I have given, you can check over here. All like that only we have. Then for D, E1 is 0 because there is no connectivity. E2 is also 0, there is no connectivity. E3, 1. E4, -1. E5, -1. E6, 0. E7, 1. E8, 1. Like that you can check. Okay, then finally the E node, E vertex. For E1, 0, E2, 0, E3, 0, E4, 0, E5, 0. E6, E7, both are -1, E8, 0. Like that you can remember. It is very easy to construct the adjacency matrix for both directed graphs and undirected graphs. And adjacency incidence matrix also we have seen here. Simply vertices we are taking on rows and edges we are taking on columns, and we are filling that matrix with either 0 or 1 or -1. Whenever there is a link between the edge and the vertex, if it is an outgoing link, that particular edge, whatever you are considering, if that particular edge is an outgoing edge from the considered vertex, so we put 1 over there. If the considered edge is an incoming edge to the vertex whatever we have selected, we put -1 over there. And if there is no connection between the vertex, between the edge whatever we have selected, simply we put 0 over there. Okay, then adjacency list. This is the linked list notation of your graph, we can say. Okay, in this representation, every vertex of a graph contains a list of its adjacency vertices. So here, whatever adjacency vertices we have to a particular vertex, whatever adjacency vertices we have, we will frame a linked list between those vertices. So here you can consider that one. So first of all, take what we call linked list notation. Take a linked list notation for all my vertices. Like how many vertices I have here? I have 5 vertices. So I am taking the linked representation of all those vertices. So A, B, C, D, E, all those vertices I have taken linked representation. And for A, we have 2 adjacent vertices, that is B and C. So that I have framed like this, from A to B and from B to C. Okay, A to B and from B to C. Like this we have adjacency vertices, like this we are framing. And for B also we have 2 adjacency vertices, E and D. So B to D, D to E. Then for C also we have only one adjacency vertex, that is D. So like this we have framed, and we are closing over here null. Last key we are making it as null to indicate the end. This will indicate that there are no more adjacency vertices to this particular A. Okay, then D. For D, if you see, for D we have A, we have E, and we also have D itself, isn't it? We also have D itself. So A, D and E. Likewise, we have represented 3, and after E we are keeping null. Then for E, we don't have any adjacency vertex, so directly we are making E as null. So in this way we do the adjacency matrix, adjacency list representation of a graph. It is very easy. All 3 concepts, it is very easy. Just a minimum effort is more than enough to understand this one. So quickly, yes, you can do the array representation also, but over here every array element, again it is going to have a link to the adjacency nodes. Okay, adjacency nodes. So what are adjacency nodes to my A, B and C? That I have represented over here, B and C. And then what are adjacency vertices to B, in the sense D and E, that I have represented over here. What are adjacency vertices to D? C, only D. For D, A, D, E, 3. Okay. Then For E we don't have anything, so we kept like this, null over here. So in this way you can represent the adjacency using array, adjacency matrix, or adjacency, what we call it as adjacency list representation using array. Okay, then the traversal techniques. It is one of the important question what they ask in your examinations when we discuss about graphs. Okay, graph traversals. Graph traversal, it is a technique used for searching any particular vertex. Using this traversal technique only, we will search any particular vertex inside your graph. Okay, we'll supply the key, and based on that key, whatever node or whatever vertex you want to search inside your graph, to search that vertex we have to follow the traversal technique only. Or the simplest definition what we have given for this traversal in our previous data structures, like traversal is a technique through which we visit all the nodes present inside the data structure. The same definition will apply over here also. So if you read the second point, you will understand that one. The graph traversal is also used to decide the order of vertices in which they are going to be visited. Because we are going to have loops inside a graph, what we are going to have the loops. So simply using this traversal technique, what we do, we convert the graph into a minimum spanning tree. We convert the graph into spanning tree. So spanning tree means, again, we can apply any of our traversal technique, like in order, pre-order, post-order, all those traversal techniques we can apply, and we can visit all the nodes present inside your spanning tree. But if it is a graph, as it is going to have the loops, it is very difficult for us to apply the traversal techniques directly. Or in short, we can say whatever techniques we use to convert the given graph into spanning tree, that technique itself is the traversal technique for a graph. That technique itself the traversal technique for a graph. So a graph traversal finds the edges to be used in the search process without creating a loop. Because ultimately graph means loops only. If the graph is having loops, loop is nothing but you are starting from a particular node, and after visiting few nodes, again you are reaching back to that node. Okay, like this. See, this kind of thing. You have started from a particular node, and after visiting few nodes, again you are coming back to that same node. So this particular kind of thing we call it as a loop. This particular kind of thing we call it as a loop, because after A we are going B, then C, then D, again we are reaching back to A. So this kind of traversal technique, I mean this kind of thing, if exists inside your data structure, we call it as a loop. So it is a what we call a repetitive process, because after reaching A, after visiting A, B, C, D, again you are reaching A, again you are going to B, C, D, like that it is keep on repeating itself. The traversal operation, it is keep on repeating itself, so it should be avoided. So what we are doing, simply we are constructing a spanning tree. From this graph, what we do, we construct a spanning tree. We construct a spanning tree, and that construction, as it is a tree, that construction itself is the traversal technique, we can say. Okay, that means graph traversals, we visit all the vertices of the graph without getting into loop path. So without entering into a loop path, in graph traversal technique, what we do, we visit all the vertices present inside your graph without getting into a loop, without entering into a loop. Okay, so there are two basic types of graph traversal techniques, that is depth first search traversal DFS and breadth first search traversal BFS. So quickly we discuss what is depth first search traversal and what is depth first search traversal, DFS and BFS. First we go with DFS, depth first search traversal. So this traversal technique to perform, we make use of a stack. And after performing this traversal technique, what you will get as the output, in the sense you will get a spanning tree. A spanning tree is nothing but a graph without any loops. Simply we remove all the loops from your graph to get the spanning tree. So if you remove all the loops from your graph, ultimately it will be your spanning tree. So simply conversion process itself gives the traversal technique to you. Okay, so stack data structure is used with maximum size of total number of vertices present inside your graph. So how much, I mean, how we have to create the graph? I mean, how much size graph how much size stack we need in order to do this traversal, in the sense the number of vertices, how many vertices you have inside your graph, that much size stack you create. Okay, so quickly we see one simple example so that you can have the better understanding on that one. So what we have to do simply, I mean the steps what we have to follow in order to convert our graph into a spanning tree using this DFS traversal, in the sense, first what we have to do, we have to define a stack equal to the number of vertices. We have to define a stack with size equal to the number of vertices present inside the graph. Then select any of the random vertex and start the traversal technique. So select any of the random vertex and visit that one. So when you are visiting a particular node in this type of traversal technique, push that vertex onto the stack. Push that vertex onto the stack. So first let us assume we are taking a vertex, a random vertex, let it be A. So immediately what we have to do, as we are visiting that vertex, we have to push that vertex onto the stack. Then after visiting a particular vertex, what we have to do, look for the adjacent vertices. Look for the adjacent vertices of the visited vertex. Okay, if you have any of the vertex which is not visited, then go to that vertex and visit it, push it onto the stack. Push it onto the stack. So likewise, we repeat the same steps again and again until you visit all the nodes present inside your graph, until you visit all the vertices present inside your graph. When there is no vertices, or when there are no vertices to visit from a particular vertex, when there are no adjacency vertices to visit from a particular vertex, what we have to do, we simply pop that from the stack. Okay, we simply pop that thing from the stack, and we repeat all these things again and again until your stack will become empty. When the stack becomes empty, whatever traversal you have done onto your graph, that traversal will become the spanning tree. That traversal will become the spanning tree. Okay, one more thing, whenever there are no vertices to visit, whenever there are no adjacency unvisited vertices we have for a particular vertex, what we do, we pop that vertex from the stack and we do backtracking. Backtracking means we move in the same direction from where we came to that particular vertex. We move in the same direction from where we came to that particular vertex. See, all these points, they are very, very important. They will definitely ask one such question from this, and yeah, the thing, you have to remember the algorithm and you have to remember the technique as well, how we are performing. And many of you people, you're not doing the steps. You're simply drawing the final tree and you are uploading. I don't want that one. I want step-by-step procedure. In your exams also, you have to do step-by-step. How we are discussing over here, like step-by-step, in that same way I'm expecting you people also to do that one. Simply don't give the final figure what you will get. Do it step-by-step. Okay. So consider, let us just take the example of this particular graph to perform the depth first search traversal. Okay, as initially all my nodes are unvisited, I will not mark any of my node into the graph. I'm not marking any of my node in the graph. So first what I am deciding means I will go with this A. We have A over here, isn't it? We have A. So I will go with this A and I will visit this A. So what I will do, I will mark this A with some color. So that marking indicates that we have already visited this A. And moreover, I told you no implementation we are going to discuss about this graph traversal techniques. Okay. So we're gonna mark this A, and that marking indicates that we have visited this A. Okay. So for green marking will indicate that the node is positively visited, and black marking will indicate that the node is already visited and the backtracking is also been done on that particular node. Visiting the node, green color. Backtracking, black color. So you have to repeat the process until and unless all nodes will become black. All nodes will become black, because forward traversal as well as backward, both the things are important over here. When you get all your nodes blacked, then you will get the spanning tree. I will show you how. See, first we are visiting A. So what we have to do, mark this A with green, okay, and push this A onto the stack. The same thing I am doing over here, as you can see. Select the vertex A as the starting point, visit A. So when we are visiting A, we are coloring with green color. Okay, that green color coloring indicates that we have visited A. And as you have visited A, push that A onto the stack. We have already did that one. As you can see over here, we pushed this A onto the, sorry, let me just take the eraser. We pushed this A onto the stack. So that pushing we are seeing over here. Then after that, what we have to do? Yes, you have now, when A you have visited, you have now options. You can visit any of the adjacent node to this particular A. Any of the adjacent node. That means you can either go and visit B, you can either go and visit E, you can either go and visit D. Any of these things you can visit. So what I am doing, I will go and visit B. Okay, I will go and visit, because I have to select any one thing. So I decided to go and visit B. I decided to go and visit B. So after visiting B, what I have to do, as I am visiting B, I have to push this B onto the stack. Okay, I have to push this B onto the stack, and I have to mark this B with green color. Okay, that indicates the visiting of B. So as you can see over here, I moved from A to B in this particular direction, and I visited B. So I marked this B with green color and I pushed this B onto B. Next, from this B, I can visit E because E not visited. I can visit C because C it is not visited. But I cannot visit A because it is already visited. A is already visited. So I cannot visit A. Okay. So this link also you have to remember, because when you perform the backtracking, now we have to move only in this direction. We have to move in this direction only, because backtracking means from where you came to the current node, from where you came, in which path you came, you have to follow the same path when you do the backtracking. Backtracking is very, very important. Okay, so we just trace, or we just mark the path from where we entered to this particular node. We came in this particular way, so we marked with a green line. So then from B, what I said, visit C and mark this path, push this C onto the stack and mark this C with green color, which indicates visiting of C. The same thing I am doing over here, as you can see. I marked this path with green line and I marked this C with green color, which indicates C is visited. And moreover, I am pushing this C onto the stack. Now, when I am at C, I have how many options? I can visit E, I can visit F, I can visit G, but I cannot visit B because it is already visited. So now, just for our understanding, or just to make this thing complex, I thought of visiting E now. Instead of going with G, I thought of visiting E now. So what I have to do, I have to mark this path and I have to mark this node with green, and I have to push this E onto the stack. The same thing I am doing over here, as you can see. I marked this path, I made this E green, and I pushed this E onto the stack. So this indicates visiting of A is also over. Now I can go in this way to the D, I can go in this way to F as well. To D as well I can go, or to F also I can go. But I have decided to move in D's direction. So what I have to do, I have to mark this path and I have to mark this D and make this D as green. Okay, and push this D onto the stack. So the same thing I am doing. Pushing D onto the stack is over, marking D also over, marking path is also over. Now from this D, I don't have any path to visit, any node, any vertex, any adjacent vertex to visit. Okay, this path I cannot go because this node is already visited. A is already visited. So this path I cannot move. Okay. Okay. This path I cannot move because E is already visited. E is already visited. So now what I have to do? I have to do backtracking from this D. Backtracking in the sense I have to move in the same path from where I came to this D. I cannot go in this path. Backtracking means I cannot go in this path. D to A I cannot move because this path we did not came over here. In this path we did not came here. From where we came, from E to D we came. That's why we marked this path, as you can see. We marked this path. when you are doing backtracking, that path also you have to mark. And as you are doing from D, as you are doing backtracking, you have to make this D with a different color. That different color we are saying black color. Okay, so mark this D with black color as we are doing backtracking, and whenever you are doing the backtracking, simply delete this thing from the stack. Whatever node you are backtracking, simply delete that node from the stack. So now we are doing backtracking from D to E, so delete this E or pop this E from the stack and mark this path. The same thing I am doing. See, marking with black color to indicate backtracking has been done from this node. Then we are marking in what direction we have done the backtracking. In this direction we have done the backtracking, and after that remove this D from the stack, pop this D from the stack. That also we have done. As you can see, there is no D on top of the stack. Then when you are at E, your possibilities, you can go to B. You can go to B, but I can't because B is already visited. You can go to A because we have a path, but A is already visited, but so we cannot move. We can go to D. D already visited and we have done backtracking also in that direction, so don't go to D. Then from D to F, yes, we can move because it is not visited and it is an adjacency node to this E node. So mark this path with green arrow and mark this F as visited by using green color, and push this F onto the stack. Push this F onto the stack. So clearly you can see we marked with both path as well as the node with green color, and we pushed this F onto the stack. Now when you are at F, your possibilities, you can move to C. Okay, you can move to the C, but we can't because C is already visited. We can move to E. We can't because E is already visited and we just came from that way only. And you can visit G. Yes, we can because G is not visited and we have a path. So mark this path with green color and visit G also, and push this G onto the stack and mark G as well as visited. So mark G with green color, mark this path with green color, and push this G onto the stack. See, like this. Okay, so then after visiting G, do I have any other node to visit? No. For this G, I can move in this direction, but I can't because this C is already visited and this is not the path from where I came. Even to perform the backtracking, I cannot move in this direction because backtracking we can perform on the path only from where we entered that particular vertex. We entered in this path, so we have to use this path only to perform the backtracking. So now G, I am performing backtracking, so mark G as black to indicate backtracking is being done, and mark this path also with red color because we are performing backtracking in this particular direction only, and pop G from the stack. So all these three actions we are doing: popping G, marking G with black color, and marking this edge with red color. See, those three things I have done. Popped, G is popped, and G got marked as backtracked node or backtracked vertex. Then path also get marked. Now we are at F. F, as it is already visited and it is not even having any of the vertices to visit, adjacent vertices to visit, so I have to perform backtrack here also. Backtrack in which direction? Only in the same direction from where I entered. So I have to mark this path as red, and yeah, here like this I have to mark this as red, and I have to mark this whole thing as black, F as black. So quickly go and see that same thing I am doing over here. So I marked this F as black and I marked this path also, and this should be green. Here it changed its color, but this should be green. Yeah, this should be green color. Okay, so like this, you just remember this should be green in color. So I marked this. Yeah, now F got marked, F got popped, and path got marked. All these things we have done. Now when you are at E, your possibility, yeah, to look for not visited adjacency node, but all my vertices, they are visited. So what I have to do, I have to perform the backtrack. And in which direction I can perform the backtrack? From where I entered into this particular node. From C I entered. So I have to backtrack towards C. So mark this particular thing with the red color. Mark the path from C to D, yes, E to mark the path from E to C in backtracking mode and mark the E node in black color and pop the E node from the stack. All those things I have done. Okay, this got black color, this path got marked, and E got popped from the stack. Okay, now yeah, from C again, all nodes they got visited, so I have to do the backtracking in the same path from where I entered. So mark this path and mark this node as well with black color and pop this C from the stack. Okay, same thing has been done. For B also do the same thing. Mark B as black, mark the path from where it got entered and remove B also from the stack. The same thing I have done. And finally, mark A as backtrack node, and we don't have any path to go backtracking because from there only we have started. So mark A as black, backtracked, and remove A from the stack. That thing I have done. So after when the stack is completely empty, what we have to do? You have to look for the path where you have performed the traversal. I mean, through which paths, through which directions you have moved, and remove all the unnecessary paths from where you have not done any traversal or any backtracking. So what links we have to remove? We have to remove this, we have to remove this, we have to remove this, this. So after removing all these things, your whatever data structure you will get, that data structure we call it as a spanning tree. Okay, that data structure we call it as spanning tree. Okay, so like this short spanning tree we got. It is something like a tree. You can apply any of the traversal technique to visit all the nodes. Or if you even follow the same path, whatever directions we are taking from A to B, then B to C, then C to E, then E to D, again coming back, then F, then G. So in short, you will get the complete traversal. In short, you will get the complete traversal. Hopefully you understood. So the next thing, the breadth first search traversal, BFS. Okay, breadth first search traversal. Here we make use of a queue in order to get the spanning tree. Here also we are retrieving the spanning tree for the given graph. Spanning tree is nothing but a tree without any loops, a graph without any loops, we can say. So here we are making use of a queue data structure. Unlike the previous method, here we are making use of a queue data structure. So just see the steps over here. Here also we are taking the queue of size equal to the number of vertices present inside your graph. Okay, how much size queue we are taking in order to perform this breadth first search traversal? In the sense, we are taking a queue equal to the size of the number of vertices present inside your graph. Then what we are doing, select any random vertex from the graph and start the traversal technique. Any random vertex you can select. Okay, and from where you are starting, visit that particular node and enqueue that node into the queue. Same like how we have done in the in case of depth first search traversal. Simply visit the node and enqueue, enqueue that node or insert that node into the queue. After inserting over there, what we have done, we have selected only one unvisited node and we have performed the traversal in that direction. But here, unlike to that, visit all the adjacent vertices which are not visited. Visit all the adjacent vertices. So if you are starting from one point, and let us say if you have 3 or 4 adjacent vertices which are not visited, simply visit them all. Simply visit them all and push on, insert all the adjacent vertices whatever you are visiting onto the queue and delete the previous vertex. Delete the previous vertex. Okay, because as it is not having any vertex to visit, isn't it? Any unvisited vertex to visit, simply delete that vertex from the queue. Okay, so you have to do like this when there is no new vertex. As long as there are vertices into the queue to be visited, you repeat this same process. And if there are no vertices to be visited from the vertex which is at the front of the queue, then delete that vertex. Okay, if there is no vertices to visit, simply delete that vertex from the queue. Okay, Repeat step 3, step 4 until Q becomes empty. When Q becomes empty, whatever structure you have in hand, that structure is nothing but your spanning tree. Okay, that structure is nothing but your spanning tree. Remove the unused links, whatever unused links you have in that what we call data structure, that links simply you remove. So after removing unused links, whatever structure you will get, that is nothing but your spanning tree. So quickly we'll take the same example and we try to perform the BFS traversal, breadth first search traversal. So again, what I do, I will start with A. I will start with A, visiting A. So what I have to do, I have to mark this A and then enqueue this A onto the queue. Insert this A onto the queue, isn't it? So then my structure will become like this. A I have visited, so I marked with green and inserted A onto the queue. Okay, so like this. Okay, like this. So here when you insert, I mean, as you know, in a queue data structure we are going to have front and we are going to have another data structure like rear, isn't it? So when you have inserted this one, your front will point at 0 and your rear will point at 1, isn't it? Your front will point at 0 and rear will point at 1. So like this. So after inserting this A, okay, after inserting this A, now in the next step, step 2, I have to visit all the adjacent nodes which are not visited from this A. I have to visit all the adjacent nodes of this A which are not visited. So what are my adjacent nodes for this A? B, E, D. These three are my adjacent nodes. So what I have to do? Just visit D, just visit E, just visit B. Visiting is nothing but color all these things and insert these three onto the queue. Okay, insert these three onto the queue. And as this A, it is not having any adjacent nodes, any more adjacent nodes, so simply delete this A from the queue. So what we do, yeah, at the front whatever node you have, if that is not having any nodes to be visited, simply delete that one. So what we do, we move the front and we move the rear as well. So now the front will come over here, this is front, and the rear will come over here, this is rear, like this. Okay, so now these three links we are utilizing and we are visiting B, E and D. B, E and D. So now whatever element you have at front, whatever link you have at front, start with that and check for the unvisited vertices of that particular, unvisited adjacent vertices of that particular vertex. So for D, we don't have any unvisited adjacent vertices. So what we have to do, if there are no adjacent vertices to visit, unvisited vertices to visit, simply delete that node from the queue. So now we delete this queue. Okay, delete this queue. Queue deleting is over. Now again, you have your front here, you have your rear here. Again, what we have to do? Yeah, simply whatever vertex you have at the front, that is E, check the unvisited adjacent vertices of this E. So now how many I have? I have C and I have F. In what direction I have to move in order to visit this C? In this direction. In what direction I have to move in order to visit this F from E? In this direction I have to move. Move in these directions. Move towards C as well as move towards F and visit these two. Visit these two. So mark them with green and enter them C and F into the what we call your queue. And after inserting the C and F, as you don't have any further nodes, further adjacent nodes to this E, so simply delete this E. The same thing I am doing over here. See, from this to this, I have removed E and I have inserted C and F. Removed E, inserted C and F, like this. Again, my front will be over here and my rear will be over here. So now whatever node you have at the front, that is B, look for its adjacent unvisited vertices. Do it having any? No, it is not having any. B, it is not having any unvisited adjacent nodes. So what we have to do? Delete this B. Delete that B, so the front will come over here. So the front will come over here and the rear will point here. Okay, now once again, whatever node you have at the front, simply look for its adjacent nodes. For C, I have only one adjacent, that is G. So I have to visit this G and push this G over here and mark this path as well, like this. Mark this path as well and delete this C from the queue because it is not having any more nodes to be visited. So deleting that one. So after deleting that C and inserting G, your data structure will become like this. So where will be my front? Over here my front. Where will be my rear? Over here my rear. Then what will happen? Front, rear. So now what we have to do? Yeah, whatever element you have, whatever vertex you have at the front, look for its adjacent unvisited vertices. It is not having any. So what we have to do? Remove this. Remove this. And then finally we have, after removing F, we have only G. Your front and rear will point over there itself. Front, rear. So now check for this front vertex adjacent unvisited vertices. It is not having any. So delete this G as well. So after deleting G, my queue will become empty. After deleting G, my queue will become empty. And now just look for whatever nodes, whatever links you have used in the traversal process. I have visited all these nodes by simply making the help of all these green color links only, and the black color links I have not utilized. So simply remove them. Remove the black color links. So this will give you a data structure, a spanning tree data structure. Now you can easily traverse in this particular spanning tree data structure. Okay. Hopefully you understood how we perform the breadth first search traversal or depth first search traversal. Okay. So any of the technique you can perform, you can apply in order to make your graph data structure as a spanning tree data structure. So they will definitely ask this one into your exams. Okay. From these two techniques, any one technique they will ask. And when they are asking, just try to explain the concept and not use any coding part over there, because coding part, it is very difficult and they rarely ask about the coding part. If they are asking specifically to implement the coding part, if you have an idea, then only do it. Otherwise, just don't do it. Okay. So then we have the concept of searching. Searching, this concept we have already done in your first year, first semester as well. Searching is nothing but looking for a particular node or looking for a particular key value into your data structure. Okay. And all searching techniques we perform on a linear data structure. We will not go for any non-linear data structure over here. Already we discussed how we are performing searching on non-linear data structures. We had a plenty of discussion, a vast discussion, a vibrant discussion on this searching concept. So searching is a process of finding a key value in a list of values. As we are saying list, the process will be sequential. Okay, the process will be linear. Okay, in other words, searching is a process of locating a given key value position in the list of values. So basically, when you are finding the value, what we are returning the index value, because all searching techniques we are applying on arrays. And whenever you are finding a particular value into an array, we are simply returning that index location of that particular key value. So key value is found on so and so location, like that we are printing. This procedure you already know from your first year. Searching algorithms are designed to check for an element or to retrieve an element from any data structure where it is stored. So it is designed, searching is a process, it is basically designed not only to check but also to retrieve in some occasions. Okay. So locating, retrieving or storing elements into the data structure, basically we do with the help of searching only. Okay. So searching, it is divided into two different types or two different categories. Searching is being classified into two different categories. The first one is sequential and the second one is interval search. First one is sequential. In sequential, what we do, from the first node of the array or the first element of the array, we simply start the searching process and we do the comparison element by element until and unless we find the element what we are looking for, or if you are reaching the end of the list, either you are finding the element or you are reaching the end of the list. Only these two cases will occur in case of linear sequential search. Okay. If you are finding the element, then we are printing the positive result that the element is found at so and so index value, at so and so index. And if you are reaching the end of the list and you are not finding the element, then we are printing a negative message like so and so element is not found into your data structure or into your list. Okay, likewise. So then we have the interval search. This algorithm was specifically designed for searching in stored data structure, sorted data structure. Whatever data structure, the linear sequential data structure you can apply to unsorted lists as well. But whereas interval search or binary search, we also call it as a binary search, for this interval search you have to have a sorted list only. Okay, these type of searching algorithms are much more efficient than your linear data structures or linear sequential search process. Okay, so basically how we are solving the binary search, I mean how we are achieving, how we are searching the element inside binary search in the sense by using the divide and conquer strategy. Okay, after every iteration or after every comparison, what we are doing, we are simply dividing the complete list into two sublists and we are taking any of the sublist into our consideration. So first thing, we quickly see the linear sequential search algorithm. In linear sequential search algorithm, what we are doing, we are looking for an element in a linear process. Okay, element by element after the element, we are doing the comparison with all the elements until and unless we are finding the element inside the list. If the element is found, then we are giving a positive response, and if the element is not found and you are reaching the end of the list, then we are giving the negative response. So we are repeating the same process for all the elements from the first element to the last element. So if you see the algorithm, the same steps I have written. First, what we have to do, we have to we have to read the element to be searched from the user, and we have to read the complete list of elements inside your list, inside your search operation. Then start doing the comparison from the between the key and the first element of the list, and repeat the same process element by element. If there is a match, we are giving a positive response that element is found, given element is found, and if the giving a positive response, and there only we are terminating our function. If both are not matched, simply we are moving to the next element and we are repeating the comparison, and we are doing the comparison there also. This type of steps, step 3 and step 4, we are keep on repeating until or unless we are finding the element or we are reaching the end of the list. Last element of the list is also compared. Okay, if last element is also compared and if we doesn't find any match inside the list, so give a negative response that element is not found and terminate the function. In either case, we are terminating the function. So in linear case, the time complexity will be order of n, because whatever number of nodes, whatever number of elements you have inside the uh, um, linear data structure or list data structure or inside your array, that many comparisons we have to perform before finding the element. Okay, in the worst case, we have to perform all the comparisons. Worst case means when the element is not there inside your linked list. All these things we discussed in your first year as well. So over here, the time complexity will be order of n. Okay, because we have n elements into the list, so the time complexity will be order of n. Quickly we do the implementation of this. See the procedure over here. So this is my list: 65, 20, 10, 55, 32, 12, 50 and 19 we have. So I am looking for the element 12. So from where I have to start? From the first element I have to start from, that is 0th index. Okay, at 0th index I am having the 65 value, so I have to do a quick comparison between 65 and 12. So I am doing the comparison, as you can see over here, 65 and 12, no match found. So we have to move to the next element, that is 20, and again you do the comparison. 20 and 12, again there is no match, so move to the next element, that is 10. 10 and 12, no match, move to the next element. 55, 12, no match, move to the next element. 32, 12, no match, move to the next element. 12 and 12, there is a match. So what we have to do? Simply return that index value, that is 5. Return that index value and print a positive message that element 12 is found at index location 5 inside the data structure or inside the list, and there only you have to stop the searching process. Then only you have to stop the searching process. That means when you find this, when you found this 12 into the list, simply don't go for 50 and 99. Don't do the comparison with 50 and 99. There only you stop the comparison. So quickly we see the implementation of this searching process inside C++. Okay. So searching technique, linear sequential search algorithm. So I will go to my dev C++. I'm taking one empty source code file. So quickly what we have to do, yeah, many times we did this one. In your first semester also we had this one. So quickly I am doing the implementation. Just the language we changed. Previously we did it with the C language. Now we are doing with C++. So hash include IOStream. Then before this, using namespace std, okay, int main of void. Okay, into this first you declare the array. Okay, int list of sum, let us say 10. Okay, list of sum, okay, 20, because size is also I'm going to read. So 20, then size I'm going to read, then I for running the counter, then key value. Okay, search key like this you take, S key, search key like this you take. Then cout, enter the size of the list. I mean, what length of list you want. Enter the size of the list. Okay, then read it into size. Cin of size. That's it. After that, now enter that many elements. Enter any I'm doing some formatting over here. Enter any, how many? Enter any, how many? Equal to the size. Enter any, how many in the sense equal to the size, number of elements, integer values. Basically, we do the searching between integer values. So that I am doing. Now take the for loop to read the values. I equals to 0. I must be less than, because size, then I plus plus. So these many elements I can insert using cin, read all those elements into the list of I. So like this. Okay, after reading, what I have to do? I have to do the I have to ask the element. Okay, I have to ask like enter the element to search. Enter the element to search. So like this. After that, read it into S key. Read it into S key. Then after that, for all I equals to be, now I'm starting the searching process. I equals to 0. I must be less than size. Then I plus plus like this. Then over here what I have to do, take one if statement, S key, it should be equals to list of I. If there is a match, then what we have to do, return the positive opinion, isn't it? Return the positive opinion. That is cout element, sorry, element is element, here you can print that one once again, element S key, element S key is found at what location? At I location, isn't it? At, print that also, at print that I also. Here I am printing, then index, like this you print. Okay, put the semicolon at the end. Now here only you can break or you can exit. Okay, you can break or you can exit like this. There only we are stopping the search process. Okay, if you are coming out of this for loop, if you are coming out of this for loop and the element is not found, means whatever element you are looking, if yes, yeah, if you are simply coming out of this loop, we will check this one, cout given uh, element. Okay, that element you print over here, s key itself. Okay, a given element is not found in the list, like this some exclamatory marks you are printing, and at the end you can put the semicolon. So in this way we can write the coding for performing the what we call linear sequential search operation. So save this program, lsearch.cpp. Okay, now do the compilation. Yeah, we do get one error, so C in we are saying, so it should be C in process. Okay, here what it is saying, invalid operand, invalid operand. Yeah, here we did the mistake. Save it, compilation successful. Now you execute and check. First it will ask you to enter the size of the list. Let us say I am entering the size as some 5. Then it will ask you to enter the 5 integers. So I am entering, let us say 23 the first integer, 45 second, 32 1 for 67, like this 5 integers I have inserted. Now it is asking me to enter the value to be searched. So see, if I say 32, so that 32 is there inside the list, isn't it? That 32 is there inside the list. So when I hit the enter key, it should give the positive response. So element 32 is found at second index value. Element 32 is found at second index value, 2 index value. So like that we perform the linear sequential search. Already it is more than like 2 hours, I guess, near to 2 hours. Okay, 1 hour 11 minutes. So shall we do the binary search as well? Okay, we'll do it in our next session hopefully. Binary search and other sorting techniques, we will start the sorting techniques as well in our next session. Only sorting is pending, along with that the hashing technique, or else I will do like this. Okay, in my next session, along with the binary search, we will discuss all hashing techniques. After that we'll go for sorting techniques. Only 6 sorting techniques we have to discuss: selection, insertion, bubble, quick merge, heap. Only 6 sorting techniques we have to discuss, and with that we will conclude our complete syllabus. Hardly 3 more classes hopefully. Thank you very much, students.